The camera lights blazed mercilessly as Trump hunched forward across the polished mahogany table, his words slicing through the suffocating atmosphere of the Roosevelt room like a blade through silk. "Explain to me, Congresswoman Crockett, do you truly grasp the breadth of executive power in this constitutional republic?" His voice carried that recognizable bite, razor-sharp and deliberately intimidating, cutting deep enough to make multiple senior staffers fidget nervously in their expensive leather chairs. Jasmine Crockett remained completely motionless, a statue of composure amid the political storm. She sat perfectly upright, fingers delicately gripping her fountain pen, her unwavering gaze fixed on the president with a kind of controlled, measured poise she'd mastered through countless hostile depositions in courtrooms throughout East Texas. Her mind wasn't churning with righteous anger or defensive emotion. Instead, her thoughts were calculating, methodical, surgically precise in their analysis of the constitutional trap being laid before her. The high-stakes roundtable meeting had commenced like dozens of others she'd attended over the past 18 months. Crisp navy suits pressed to perfection, carefully rehearsed talking points, television cameras documenting every micro-expression and gesture. But Trump had abruptly shifted direction from the agreed-upon agenda, as he so frequently did when sensing political advantage. His newest executive directive proposal, a sweeping, comprehensive plan to impose financial penalties on federal legislators who actively damaged national solidarity through divisive rhetoric, had prompted Jasmine to pose what seemed like a straightforward constitutional inquiry. "Mr. President, what specific constitutional clause grants the executive branch legal authority to penalize duly elected congressional representatives?" That seemingly innocent question was precisely when he'd chosen to target her personally. Trump released a theatrical, condescending chuckle, clearly performing for the rolling cameras and carefully positioned media representatives. "Now, Jasmine, this involves highly sophisticated constitutional concepts that require years of study. Perhaps you should focus on policy subjects you actually understand. This isn't some community college mock trial preparation session." The entire chamber fell into stunned, uncomfortable silence. A senior aide positioned beside the ornate entrance door abruptly stopped writing mid-sentence, her pen suspended in disbelief. Camera technicians reflexively adjusted their equipment and focused their lenses, their professional instincts detecting the sudden atmospheric transformation that signaled political history in the making. Jasmine moved with deliberate, calculated purpose, reaching into her worn leather briefcase with the confidence of someone who had anticipated exactly this moment. She carefully extracted a compact, weathered volume, her personal pocket constitution, faithfully carried since her very first semester at St. Mary's University Law School nearly 2 decades earlier. She placed the sacred document on the polished table surface with quiet, unmistakable authority that commanded instant respect. "Actually, Mr. President," she stated with perfect calm, her voice steady as granite, "constitutional law represents exactly my area of specialized expertise." Trump's left eyebrow arched upward in surprise, his arms folding defensively across his chest as he realized he might have underestimated his opponent. "This foundational text isn't beyond my comprehension or understanding. I swore a solemn oath to defend and protect it, identical to the oath you took." She turned to a previously bookmarked section with practiced precision. Article 1, Section 6. Clause 1 explicitly and unambiguously shields all congressional representatives from executive branch interference, particularly concerning their protected speech and legislative debate. Your proposed executive order isn't merely legally unconventional, it's constitutionally invalid and completely The deliberate manner in which she pronounced constitutionally invalid, firm, absolutely confident, yet without personal hostility or malice, struck the room like a judge's gavel, announcing final judgment. Legal advisors and constitutional scholars seated around the table began writing frantically in their notebooks. The Homeland Security Secretary suddenly found his manicured fingernails fascinating, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Trump's mouth opened as if to deliver one of his trademark rapid-fire comebacks, then closed without producing sound. For once in his political career, the instant retort that had served him so well simply never materialized. That profound silence emanating from a man who famously never stopped talking under any circumstances communicated more than 1,000 words ever could. Jasmine pressed forward with methodical precision. "If we're genuinely committed to pursuing lasting national harmony and unity, we certainly don't accomplish that noble goal by systematically shredding our Constitution. That's precisely how democratic republics historically crumble into authoritarian states." Trump visibly adjusted his posture, his signature scowl deepening into something approaching genuine frustration. "Fine, all right, we'll postpone this particular discussion for now. You've certainly expressed your legal opinion quite clearly, but everyone present in that historic room understood intuitively that this exchange far exceeded merely expressing personal opinions or academic theories. This was living, breathing American history being written in real time, delivered without fanfare or theatrical dramatics, simply truth spoken to power. The gathered assembly remained visibly strained and uncomfortable. Trump's senior advisors, desperately searched their colleagues' faces for some form of political rescue or strategic intervention. The vice president became fascinated with studying the ornate ceiling architecture. Senator Greaves nervously tapped his gold pen against a crystal water glass, the metallic sound echoing awkwardly. Jasmine waited patiently, her hands clasped respectfully over her open constitution, its corners worn smooth from decades of constant handling and reference. No visible arrogance, no triumphant victory celebration, just the quiet dignity of someone who had absolutely nothing remaining to prove to anyone. CSPAN's cameras captured absolutely everything, raw, unfiltered political conflict in its purest form. Her right foot tapped once beneath the polished table, not from nervous anxiety, but from laser-focused concentration. It was a technique she'd developed during her early years as an overworked public defender in Amarillo. Sometimes the most strategically powerful action is simply allowing uncomfortable silence to perform your advocacy work. Within mere minutes of the exchange, social media platforms across the internet exploded into digital chaos. The dramatic interaction, Trump publicly questioning her professional competence, followed by her devastating constitutional response, faster than wildfire through every conceivable online channel. On TikTok, creative users slowed down her measured words for maximum dramatic impact. Twitter featured split-screen comparisons of Trump's visible bewilderment, contrasted against Jasmine's unshakable composure. The most popular caption read, "She didn't elevate her voice. She elevated the constitutional standard." In a modest grassroots campaign headquarters located in Topeka, Kansas, a young volunteer turned toward her experienced supervisor with genuine curiosity. "Who exactly is this woman?" The supervisor shrugged uncertainly, equally impressed. "Someone who apparently just transformed the entire political landscape." Back in the nation's capital, Jasmine discreetly caught her chief of staff's attention. Colin was positioned strategically among the official observers, taking detailed notes. She quickly wrote something in her leather-bound legal notepad. He would read her message later. "We're absolutely not withdrawing from this constitutional fight." She closed her notebook with finality, meeting Trump's frustrated stare once more. His entire demeanor had noticeably shifted, less focused on political dominance, increasingly consumed with irritation at finding himself so thoroughly outmaneuvered by superior preparation. He abruptly seized the microphone with both hands. "Let's refocus our valuable time on practical solutions moving forward, not lengthy constitutional history lessons." Jasmine didn't respond verbally. She didn't require words. The profound stillness communicated everything that needed saying. Representative Rowland from Oregon dutifully began discussing infrastructure investment proposals, but absolutely nobody in the room was listening anymore. The political atmosphere had already fundamentally transformed, and everyone present could feel the seismic shift beyond the White House walls. The American people immediately sensed something significant had occurred. In a busy Wichita Falls restaurant, a woman still wearing her work uniform enthusiastically replayed the video segment for her concerned brother. In Pittsburgh, college students projected the exchange onto their dormitory wall for impromptu viewing parties. In an Oakland barbershop filled with afternoon customers, an elderly gentleman declared with conviction, "That's exactly how you properly handle a political bully." Jasmine departed the White House without any dramatic ceremony whatsoever. Strategic lingering, no carefully orchestrated photo opportunities with supporters. Simply a dignified exit befitting a public servant. Colin pursued her through the marble corridor, his excitement barely contained. "Do you fully understand what just occurred in there?" She glanced sideways while maintaining her brisk pace. "I performed my sworn duty, nothing more." He shook his head in amazement. "You completely reversed the power dynamic in that entire room without raising your voice even once. They'll twist and distort it regardless of what actually happened." "Perhaps that's true," he said quietly, his tone growing serious, "but you didn't blink or waver for even a second." America witnessed genuine strength under pressure. The following morning arrived with her phone exploding into digital chaos before dawn had even broken. Not gentle notification chimes. This was the kind of relentless digital pandemonium that clearly indicates something has caught fire across the internet and won't be contained. Colin waited patiently in her congressional office. Tablet computer prepared and loaded with data. The split-screen video segment had already exceeded 3.8 million views on just one social media platform alone. The most popular caption read, "When you deliver actual receipts to the president's meeting table, it's absolutely everywhere," Colin reported with barely concealed excitement. MSNBC has aired the complete exchange 11 times before 11 a.m. Even Fox News is struggling to effectively reframe the narrative. Constitutional law professors are composing detailed Twitter threads, analyzing every word. High school students are quoting your exact phrases. This is genuinely massive. Jasmine wearily rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of sudden fame. "I certainly wasn't pursuing viral internet celebrity status. I'm just completely exhausted by constant political dishonesty." Her weathered pocket constitution rested prominently on her organized desk. its margins completely covered with years of handwritten observations from courtrooms and congressional committee sessions, a testament to decades of dedicated constitutional study. At Georgetown University Law School that morning, what should have been a routine student Q&A session suddenly became standing room only. Television cameras captured her addressing the overflow crowd of eager law students. Some critics dismiss constitutional citation as mere political theater or academic showboating. I fundamentally disagree with that characterization. I absolutely insist that our elected leaders stop deliberately mischaracterizing what our nation's founding document actually permits and prohibits. She held up her personal copy for everyone to see. This isn't decorative ornamentation for my office. It's active protection for our democracy. Outside the law school, aggressive journalists swarmed around her like hungry sharks. One reporter immediately questioned whether she felt personally disrespected during the White House meeting. I don't demand or require personal respect from anyone. I demand constitutional honesty and factual accuracy. American citizens watching at home deserve to witness exactly what happens when unchecked power encounters constitutional limits. Another reporter mentioned Trump's latest social media post calling her a dangerous extremist who studies constitutional law like an overeager paralegal. She smiled faintly, her first genuine smile of the day. Well, he's certainly accurate about one specific thing. I absolutely do study. But the mounting pressure wasn't merely public scrutiny and media attention. Capitol Hill phone lines rang endlessly with calls from constituents, lobbyists, and fellow representatives. Even some traditionally conservative Republicans quietly sent private messages of encouragement. One anonymous GOP senator wrote, "You confronted him directly, without unnecessarily humiliating him. That's an incredibly challenging political balance to achieve." Colin arrived at her office, carrying a thick manila envelope, his expression grave. It's officially beginning. Inside were leaked internal strategy papers from Trump's political organization. The language was absolutely brutal, systematically describing her as divisive, fundamentally anti-American, and completely unsuitable for federal office. "They're clearly baiting you into an emotional response," Colin cautioned. "Let them try," Jasmine answered with steel in her voice. "I'll counter with documented facts and constitutional law." On Face the Nation that Sunday, she remained completely unflappable despite aggressive questioning. "I didn't seek unnecessary confrontation or political theater. I presented verifiable facts and maintained appropriate dignity throughout. If that genuinely troubles someone in a position of authority, perhaps they should examine why they arrived at that meeting so thoroughly unprepared." That evening, alone on her modest DC apartment terrace, she wrote in her personal journal, "If speaking constitutional truth involves personal danger, I'll continue speaking regardless. Strategic silence has already cost our democracy far too much." By Friday afternoon, her name surfaced prominently in high-level political conversations she hadn't been invited to join. Experienced political analysts and commentators began labeling her as genuinely viable not merely for re-election to her current seat, but potentially for something much greater. A leaked internal polling document revealed measurable approval rating improvements among suburban independent voters throughout crucial swing states, but Jasmine deliberately remained laser-focused on her actual constituency back home. Consistently, addressing practical issues like affordable housing and public transportation legislation that rarely trended on social media, but genuinely mattered to working families. In Austin, she stood before a diverse group of high school students gathered in a community center gymnasium. No elevated stage, just simple metal folding chairs arranged in a circle for honest, direct conversation. Yes, I know you've all seen the viral video clip. That's probably the primary reason you're here today. But that wasn't political wizardry or rhetorical magic. That was simply thorough preparation meeting opportunity. I didn't become internet famous for being exceptionally clever. I became viral for carefully studying what other participants didn't bother bringing to the table. One earnest student raised her hand and asked if she was genuinely frightened when directly confronting the president. Absolutely, without question. But I feared strategic silence significantly more. Silence only protects and shields those already possessing everything. Another young woman inquired about truly belonging in political spaces as a woman of color. Politics already influences and shapes your complete existence, your educational opportunities, your economic future, your fundamental civil rights. You already belong at every political table. The only question remaining is, will you continue observing from outside the room? Or will you claim your rightful seat at the decision-making table? Later that evening, a local community minister approached her with tears in his eyes. "You're not just altering specific policies or legislation. You're fundamentally altering how young people see themselves and their potential." As she flew back to Washington, D.C., she carefully retrieved that handwritten letter from Nebraska, written in elementary school pencil. "I want to be exactly like you someday." She gazed down at children playing organized soccer on the fields below, and told Colin, "Schedule significantly more school visits. Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, wherever they don't expect us to appear. Because despite all the mounting political noise, all the escalating threats from opponents, all the crushing pressure from media attention, she still faithfully carried that portable constitution everywhere she went, not for impressive display, or political theater for active daily application. And as long as she possessed and understood that sacred document, she absolutely wasn't retreating from this constitutional fight.